AZEK Pavers are breaking the traditional mentality that landscape pavers must be made from concrete or clay. Patented AZEK Pavers are the most technologically advanced and socially responsible pavers in the industry. AZEK Pavers are made from up to 95% recycled materials and contribute more toward LEED certification than any other paver on the market. Made from lightweight, durable materials that cut and handle like traditional decking materials, AZEK Pavers are the easiest and fastest way to install beautiful, long-lasting pavers for your patio, walkway, driveway, or roof deck. AZEK Pavers will transform any outdoor area into a beautiful, low-maintenance living space. Spend more time enjoying your new living space with AZEK Pavers' lifetime no-crack guarantee for residential applications, stain, impact, and slip resistance, no sealing required, and no chalky efflorescence to worry about. They are simply a better paver. Before beginning the installation, remember that AZEK Pavers should be installed in accordance with your local building codes and the installation guidelines. As always, consult with a professional before installing. AZEK standard pavers are designed to be installed for new walkways, patios, driveways, or on flat roofs. They can also be used for most commercial applications. However, AZEK does not recommend using them for high-speed or heavy traffic roadways, in direct contact with flames or embers around fire pits, or where flooding or standing water may occur. The following guidelines are for an in-ground application of AZEK standard pavers over a standard non-permeable aggregate base. In-ground installations will need the following equipment: safety glasses, earplugs, tape measure, marker, hammer, level, shovel, 3/4-inch conduit, edging, landscape spikes, plate compactor, broom, hand dolly, caulking gun, Titebond ProVantage landscape adhesive, a jigsaw or miter saw and blades, 5 to 6 TPI jigsaw blade, or 10-inch 24-tooth or 12-inch 32-tooth miter saw blade. With 5 stone-like color options, colors can be mixed and matched to create a truly unique design. Customize the project even more with one of many possible patterns, most commonly herringbone, basket weave, or running bond for 4x8-inch only patterns, or plain weave, block lattice, or soldiered for combining 4x4, 4x8, and 8x8-inch pavers. Borders can also be added with AZEK standard paver accessories, legless full and legless wedge pavers. AZEK Building Products generally recommends the same base design and construction as traditional pavers. However, it is always recommended to consult with a landscape professional prior to installation. Always locate utilities. Prior to beginning the installation, ensure all underground utilities, for example, electrical lines, phone lines, water lines, have been properly located and identified. Walkways, patios, and other common foot traffic applications typically have 4 to 6 inches of road base, compacted every 2 inches. Driveways and other light traffic applications typically have 6 to 12 inches of road base, compacted every 2 inches. For parking lots, fire lanes, or other heavy traffic, always consult with a landscape professional. On top of the compacted road base, 3/4 inch of a coarse leveling sand is recommended for the bedding layer. Do not use mason sand, stone dust, or other overly fine sands, as they may wash out or cause other problems over time. Excavation depth is equal to the sum of the base material thickness, the sand bed thickness, and the paver thickness minus 1/4 inch. The subtraction of 1/4 inch will allow room for the final compaction. Install and compact base 2 inches at a time using a plate compactor or hand tamper. Compact to a 95% proctor density, and be sure all edges and corners are thoroughly compacted, as those areas are most at risk for degradation. Limit any undulations to 1/4 inch or less, and be sure the top surface is sloped at least 1 inch every 6 feet in the desired direction, generally away from the house. Once the base material is finished, the bedding layer can be installed. Using pieces of 3/4 inch conduit and a straight edge will make getting an even layer the easiest. Lay the conduit on top of the finished base and fill the area with bedding sand. Once full, use a straight edge to move the sand around, filling low areas and removing sand from any high areas. Continue to move the conduit as areas are finished, and fill in the voids left by the conduit. Do not compact the bedding sand. Remember that AZEK pavers will contour to the surface in which they are resting, and will reflect any imperfections. You are now ready to begin the AZEK Paver installation. First, choose your starting point based on the project dimensions and desired look, keeping in mind any cutting that may need to happen. Begin by laying a handful of AZEK's patented installation grids in the arrangement that matches your pattern to ensure pavers overlap grids in both directions. To increase speed, it is recommended to order 10 or more extra grids to get started. Be sure to account for expansion if being installed between rigid or damageable protrusions or perimeters. If installing below 70 degrees Fahrenheit, leave a 5/8 inch total gap. If installing above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, leave a 1/2 inch total gap. The gap can be split between both sides, for example, a 1/4 inch on either side. Bring over grids full of pavers, dump them next to where they will be placed into the grid, and put the empty grids into place. This works best with a 3-person crew, having 2 people carrying pavers and laying grids, and having 1 person laying pavers. If mixing colors or using multiple-sized pavers in one pattern, bring over the ratio of colors and paver sizes being used. For example, in this installation we are using 50% boardwalk and 50% redwood. For colors, bring over an even amount of each at a time. The pattern is plain weave, which has coverage of approximately 56% 8x8s, 28% 4x8s, and 14% 4x4s. The carrier will bring over 4 grids of 8x8s, 2 grids of 4x8s, and 1 grid of 4x4s in each color to keep the installer laying pavers having the right product. As you begin laying the pavers in the desired pattern, make sure they are overlapping the grids in both directions. This is how you connect all the grids together. Depending on your pattern or when you get to edges, you may need to cut your grids or pavers. They can be cut to any shape using a jigsaw or miter saw and a low tooth count wood ripping blade. AZEK recommends using perimeter grids that are greater than 8 inches wide, ideally 12 inches or 16 inches, to ensure they are adequately connected to the main course. If the perimeter grids are smaller than 8 inches, inset a partial grid within the main course to make the perimeter grid wider. A jigsaw is typically the preferred method. AZEK pavers can be cut in place with this approach, rather than individually cutting pavers with a miter saw. If using a miter saw, it works best to place the paver on a grid while cutting it. This allows the person cutting the product to both have more support in holding the paver and keeps their fingers farther away from the blade. Short, quick motions with a miter saw work better. Slow, continuous cuts may cause binding and warping of the blade. For pavers cut to dimensions smaller than half a paver, it is recommended to adhere the paver to the grid using Titebond Pro-Vantage landscape adhesive. There are a few ways to finish the installation. If no border is being used, end the pavers where desired and use a paver restraint to hold the perimeter pavers in place. Another option is to install a soldier course border. There are 2 ways of accomplishing this with AZEK standard pavers. If a full 4x8 inch paver is desired and the dimensions work so it fits into the grid, place the paver into the grid and finish the perimeter with a paver restraint edging. If the dimensions do not fit so that the legs of the pavers fit into the grid, or curved soldier course border is desired, cut the main course pavers back so there is 8 inches of exposed grid. A line can be traced on top of the pavers using a marker and a straight edge or flexible hose, depending on if it's straight or curved. Or simply lay out legless full and legless wedge pavers in the desired shape and trace the inside edge. The pavers can be cut in place, but be sure not to cut through the grid. To eliminate the burrs after cutting, use a scrap piece of paver as sandpaper and rub it along the edge of the cut paver. Use the legless soldier course full and wedge pavers to create the desired border. These accessory products eliminate having to cut wedge-shaped pavers to achieve a curved soldier course border and already have the legs removed when installing pavers that are not square with the main course. Prior to adhering, lay these accessory pavers out to get the correct combination, mainly for curved areas. Once that is known, remove the accessory pavers and cover the top ribs of the exposed grid with a 1/4 inch bead of Titebond Pro-Vantage landscape adhesive. Then place the accessory pavers back in place, pressing firmly. Next, install the paver restraints and let adhesive set for a minimum of 72 hours prior to walking on the pavers. To install the paver restraints for all installation methods, place the paver restraint tied up against the edge of the pavers, with the top falling slightly below the top of the pavers. Use 10-inch or 12-inch landscape spikes every 6 to 12 inches to anchor the paver restraints into place. The final step is a combination of sanding and tamping the pavers. This will even out any minor undulations and help lock the pavers into place. Prior to sanding the pavers, use a plate compactor or hand tamper to work the pavers into the bedding layer. A plate compactor will take 1 or 2 passes in each direction, while a hand tamper will take several strikes in each area. Prior to sanding, review the surface for any undulations. If undulations are found, lift up the pavers and grid and add or remove sand to make the surface even. The same sand used for the bedding layer can be used for the joint sand. This is a coarse sand. Do not use fine sands as they will wash out and cause other issues over time. Do not use polymeric sands with AZEK pavers. Sweep the joint sand across the pavers in both directions, filling the gaps. This is much easier to do with dry sand. Continue a combination of sweeping and compacting until the joints are filled. Additional sand may need to be added over time, as rain and settling reduce the level of sand in the joints. AZEK pavers are guaranteed for life to not crack in residential applications and are slip, stain, and scratch resistant. They are also low maintenance, requiring no sealing and have no chalky efflorescence. The best part is that you have helped the environment. Manufactured in the U.S. and made from recycled tires and plastics, this 450-square-foot project prevented approximately 225 tires and 6,750 plastic containers from entering U.S. landfills. You are now ready to enjoy your elegant and low-maintenance AZEK paver patio.